righty, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's edition of Roundabout Sports presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. It is Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. I'm the maestro, Jeremy Karp, and we have so much to talk about this evening. And I'm so grateful that later on in the show, we're going to have the good doctor himself, JM, joining us to go over his week one or heading into week two NFL power rankings because it was an absolutely wild week one. As you could tell, rocking the dog pound as Cleveland beat the Cincinnati Bengals 24-3. But we'll get more into the football talk later. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, well, X, whatever the hell you want to call it these days. Follow us on YouTube, and be sure to go to our website at interstate70sports.media. With that, the first thing I do want to talk about this evening is the fact that finally, after all these months, after all these depressing starts and even more depressing finishes, Cardinals starter Adam Wainwright finally gets win number 199. And look, Wainwright, it goes without saying that for him, it's been a terrible season. It's been a terrible final season. It's been a terrible season in general. He is 4-11 on the year, not even close to what you imagined the 41-year-old to be at this point in his career. And I mean, I'm sorry, the 42-year-old, but nevertheless, it's just been rough. So since June 17th, Wainwright has been holding on to 198 career wins. Well, last night, thanks to some great offense by Richie Palacios, who came off the bench to hit 2 solo home runs, as well as Adam Wainwright himself, who allowed only 2 runs on 7 hits over 5 innings, struck out 3 and walked 3. Great fielding by the Cardinals as well. St. Louis emerged victorious 5-2. They are now 64 and 81 as of this show date, which, for the St. Louis Cardinals is not something we expected in 2023, but hell, we don't expect it in any year. And meanwhile, Christopher Miles, our dear friend who hosts every week, every Sunday, Issues with Wrestling with Christopher Miles. You can find it on Spotify, on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to find it. It is there. It's one of the premier wrestling podcasts out there. And of course, I would be remiss without saying that be sure to check out reviewstl.com for some top-notch interviews and articles as well. In fact, we have an amazing interview by the good doctor who I mentioned earlier will be on soon. He did a fantastic interview with WWE superstar LA Knight, and definitely worth checking out in every sense, even though some of it is now past tense because it involves his past match with The Miz. The interview is just great. I highly recommend checking out. Go to the Interstate 70 Sports Media YouTube channel for that and so much more. Meanwhile, Jared Shannon always tuning in saying how Christopher Miles is a heel referee. We know how Christopher feels about that. Nevertheless, I do see what Chris says here. You have to feel for Uncle Charlie. This isn't how he wanted to go out. Well, nobody wanted him to go out like this either. The Cardinals, the reason, and I know the good doctor would agree with me, there's so many reasons the Cardinals have struggled badly this year. One of them is the fact that they lead the league in blown saves. You take away, they have blown 27 saves this season. That is enough to get you, to the 81 win mark. I'm sorry, actually, that would get you 91 wins. If the Cardinals stay where they're at right now, but you take out 27 blown saves, they'd have 91 wins. Instead, they got 64. And it's unbelievable that it's gotten to that point. The bullpen, one of the biggest question marks that needs to be addressed on this team heading into 2024 and basically into the 2023-2024 offseason. And Jared saying how the Cardinals don't have good management. They have trouble with communication and they lack being a team after the trades. And the good doctor tuning in from backstage saying it all starts at the front office. And at this part, I could not agree more. Mo needs to go and Marmol needs to go. And I agree. The reason Ollie was hired, in my opinion, everybody has their opinion on it, and I'll respect their opinions on it. My reasoning for why Ollie was hired over so many other candidates is because he is more of what the management wants, as far as he won't put up more fight. He won't push back on, yeah, a yes sir guy, a yes man, whatever you want to call it. And that's what management wanted, because they didn't get it with Mike Schilt. They didn't get it with Mike Matheny. They wanted that guy that would not push back and just go with the flow of whatever questions or whatever statements or plans they had. Ollie will go for it. I think a lot of the disaster of the season started with the trashing of Tyler O'Neill. I think it was all handled absolutely terribly in every sense of the way. Um, so, for that in and of itself, I do feel the St. Louis Cardinals have failed in multiple ways. This season, you have to look beyond the 64 and 81 record. First off, we don't know what they're going to finish. I highly doubt they're going to win 17 straight games to finish at 500. But see, here's the good doctor saying how Matt Halliday as your manager, McGuire as hitting coach should happen for next season. I don't see McGuire being the hitting coach. They had the chance. And it upsets me, and I get it. He also wants to be there for his son, who's working his way to the major league level. Matt Halliday should still be on this coaching staff. Matt Halliday should still be a coach in the Cardinals organization on that big league team. But because Ollie's a manager and because he's not that yes man guy, Halliday is not the bench coach. He's not the manager. And it's such a wasted opportunity because Matt Halliday is still one of the most beloved Cardinals of all time, and well-deserving to be a Cardinal Hall of Famer as he is. And it's things like that are just very upsetting. Just seeing how this team has fallen apart in more ways than just obviously from the sake of the standpoint of having a 64-81 last place record. So that's how I feel with the whole St. Louis Cardinals situation. Obviously, now you got 3 weeks, and you just need to end the season on somewhat of a decent note. That's the best thing you can do at this point. I will say there is an interesting piece of news here. Per The Athletic, Dylan Carlson will undergo season-ending surgery on his left ankle. It's not been healed properly. Nolan Gorman, who has had a great season, has been placed on the 10-day IL. So injuries really biting the Cardinals in the ass right now as to close the season. It's a good thing the season's nearing its end. So I'm going to end the Cardinal talk on one piece of positive news, though. So on Saturday, September 30th, against the Cincinnati Reds, it's a 6:15 start time. Fans are invited to stay after the game for a special post-game musical performance by who else but Adam Wainwright. Adam Wainwright will be debuting 3 new original songs from his upcoming album, followed by an in-stadium fireworks show. So be sure to go to that game. Should be a lot of fun and very interesting, to say the least. Okay. So with all that said, we're going to shift gears now to the NFL. And before we get to the power rankings, I do want to bring the good doctor on still. Dear friend, huge contributor at Interstate 70 Sports Media, as well as at reviewstl.com. I'm going to bring him on now because we got some Kansas City Chiefs business to talk about regarding Pro Bowl defensive tackle and hell, all-pro defensive tackle Chris Jones and the new contract he signed. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the one, the only, the good doctor.
Good evening.
Good evening, my friend. How are you doing?
Just great.
Awesome, awesome. So, you reported a few days ago about Chris Jones getting the new deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. He had been holding out for months now in regards to he basically, and like I've said the past few weeks, he wants Aaron Donald money. That's just the best way to put it. And he basically lost over $3 million trying to get it. He still didn't get it. But what exactly did he get?
Well, he got a bunch of incentives that so his base salary for this year is $19.5 million. With the incentives that they have lined up for him, I think he can earn right around $25 million. I know he gets $1 million for 10 sacks, 500,000 if he hits 15 sacks. I think another $1 million if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl and he gets Defensive Player of the Year. So it's very incentive filled, which is a good thing for Chiefs fans because Jones plays his best football when money is on the line. I love Chris Jones as a player. I love him as a person. He's one of those guys who's a straight shooter. He's going to be upfront and honest with the fans and with the media, regardless of what it does to his reputation. His reputation is definitely taking a hit here. I'm going to be very, very interested to see how the fans react to him when he runs out on the field at Arrowhead here in a couple weeks. Now, if he goes into Jacksonville and has 2 or 3 sacks and 5-6 tackles, all will be forgiven. There's no doubt in my mind. Sports fans have a short memory, and listen, contracts are part of the game. I'm not one of those guys who says you live up to the contract you sign. Not in today's NFL. We saw what happened to Aaron Rodgers. 4 plays in, he's done. So you got to get what money you can while you can get it. And I don't fault Jones for that. Now, I was also one of those people that says they needed to trade him. And that still could happen. The good thing about this deal was Brett Veach, the GM, thought ahead enough to make sure that they have the opportunity to franchise Jones next season if they want. So in reality, the Chiefs are giving themselves 2 years to figure out what they want to do with Chris Jones. Are they going to keep him around long term, or are they going to let him walk, or are they going to trade him? I don't know what's going to happen. I think a lot's going to depend on how he does this season.
So, we talk about how it benefits the Chiefs, which it does. It benefits the fans, which it does, because it does, like you said, gives the Chiefs time to figure out what they want to do with Chris Jones. He's not a spry 25-year-old, like in the prime. I mean, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's 29 years old. My question is, Chris Jones finally agrees to end this holdout and sign the 1-year deal. So you lose over $3 million in fines and because of missing practices and camp and stuff like that. And you only get a 1-year deal out of it. So, and it's incentive based. So it's based on how he does and how the Chiefs as a whole do. So my question is, how does Chris Jones benefit from all this?
Well, for one, has it ever come out that he is for sure going to have to pay these fines? I have not heard that. So as far as I'm concerned, there may be some dealings in this where he don't have to pay these fines. I don't know. We don't know. But how does it benefit him? Well,
you think the Chiefs will waive it?
I would. What's it going to hurt?
The Niners did with Bosa.
Keep your stars happy. That's the name of the game.
That's true.
And I can see both sides of it. But I don't fault him for doing what he did. Now, the only thing I had a major problem with was him sitting up in the one of those boxes for the Thursday night game with his agents. as a player, I
Right.
would have had major issues with someone who is supposed to be on the field with me, our defensive leader, who is under contract but refusing to play, and then he comes to the game anyway and sits up in a luxury box. Um, I doubt any players said anything to him because he is the defensive leader. But man, I guarantee you, some of those guys in that locker room are probably like, "Man, that was the wrong move to make," and that's what fans are going to be upset about the most. I can guarantee you that. If they would have won that game Thursday night, all would have been forgiven. And really, the defense didn't need Jones Thursday night. They gave up 14 points. They didn't miss him a
I
whole
was gonna
lot.
say they gave up 14 points. The defense didn't do bad. I think the
Defense
fact
played
they
well.
lost 21-20, it's the defense played very well. They the Lions were very methodical offensively.
And they're going to be.
They
That's the Lions for
mainly
you. I mean,
worked to keep.
the Lions are going to be at the end of the season. I
Yeah,
guarantee you, the Lions will be a top 5 offensive team, if not top 3. Um, the problem the Chiefs had Thursday night, and I'm not taking anything away from the Lions. The Lions came into Arrowhead, amped up, building off the success they had last year, and they outplayed the Chiefs. I will give them that. However, Kadarius Toney catches one of those 3 passes, the Chiefs probably win that game. It's that simple. Um, and again,
yeah,
I'm
because one
not
of them
putting.
went because one deflection went for a pick six.
Yeah, I'm not going to put the loss on. It's a team game. There were other moments in that game the Chiefs could have, uh, turned the tide. But man, those 3 drops were killer, and I worry about him mentally, where he's at. Um, Hopefully, he had a lot of time this week to really get his head together. I know he went off social media, which was a good thing. Players being on social media is one of the worst things they can do because fans are toxic. I follow a lot of these message boards for Chiefs fans and St. Louis City Soccer and even the Cardinals. It's a very toxic environment. I don't participate because a lot of the fans are idiots. I mean, let's just face it. The people who post the ignorant stuff, they're idiots. They don't know the game. They don't know what goes into it. They don't know what these players put into it. So I felt really bad for Toney. And for fans to rip him the way they did, he's one of the sole reasons the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year. You take him out of that Super Bowl game, Kansas City doesn't win. So Chiefs fans really need to think about what they're saying to this guy because everyone's going to have a bad game. I mean, Mahomes played well enough to win. The loss isn't on Mahomes. But, it's not on Chris Jones not being there either by any means. So it was just I think if Chris Jones would have been in that lineup, they still would have lost the game. Detroit was fired up, and that was a state. And I said it when that game was before the schedule was released. I said Detroit's going to be our opponent to open the season. It makes sense. You got the top team in the league going against one of the rising top teams in the league that everyone's on the bandwagon right now. It made sense, and I said Detroit's going to get us week 1. I am not worried about the Chiefs one bit. Anyone who is, take a step back, take a deep breath. The Kansas City Chiefs will be just fine. I promise you. Even if they lose at Jacksonville this week, they will still be fine.
And you mentioned about the Chiefs and how they're going to be just fine. You mentioned how there was a lot of factors that played into the fact that they lost on Thursday night. I mean, we're also missing the big elephant in the room here. The number one target for Patrick Mahomes, a future Hall of Famer, and Travis Kelce did not play.
We're going to start calling him T Swift. T Swift Kelce.
T Swift Kelce did not play.
I can't wait till they split up and she writes a song about him.
Oh my God. It's going to be the newest hit that I'm going to hear every morning on the way to work.
Right, it will be. No, they missed him. They missed him sorely. Listen, that
Yeah,
offense is designed to run through him. He is the first and second option most of the time. Um, and with him not there, they didn't have that option. I mean, the backup tight ends they got are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They're good players, but they're not a Hall of Fame tight end, Travis Kelce. You're talking about one of the top 3 tight ends to ever play the game, most likely. I mean,
definitely top 5.
I don't
Without
know
a
who
doubt,
you'd
top
put above
5.
him other than maybe Kellen Winslow.
Probably I'd put Kellen Winslow. I mean, Tony Gonzalez.
I'd put him over Gonzalez. I'll be frank. I'm a
And so
Tony
I got
fan, but
Tony
I'd put Kelsey over
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez.
A lot of people put Gronk up there above Kelsey still.
I'd probably put Gronk over him. Yeah. So top 3,
So I
top
mean, you're
5.
looking at third. I mean, if you're going to be for you in your case.
I mean, think
So
about some of the greatest players of the game. If you took them away from their teams, a Jerry Rice, you took him away from Joe Montana. Montana doesn't win 4 Super Bowls. You
no,
take Jerry
not at
Rice
all.
away from Steve Young, he sure as hell doesn't win that Super Bowl. Look at the Rams. You take Marshall Faulk off the Rams, they don't win a Super Bowl. No way. So, every team's got that player that they rely on. Now, the Chiefs found out that, hey, we need to be ready because this is a type of injury that he has that could plague him throughout the season. And that's my concern, that, this is going to be a nagging injury that Kelce may only play 10 games this year. So you're going to have 7 games without Travis Kelce. You got to win probably 4 of those to get a decent seed in the playoffs. So yeah, the Chiefs got to figure some stuff out. But you have the best coach in the NFL, Andy Reid. You have Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL. They're going to be fine. They will figure it out. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Several years ago, I don't know if you remember, the Chiefs started 1-5. The world was falling apart.
Yeah.
I was calling for Andy Reid. I was calling for Andy Reid's head. You can ask my friends. I was saying they need to fire him, and then they reel off 10 in a row. So I'm not worried, and Chiefs fans should not be worried. The team played pretty damn well overall, all things considered. I was happy with the way they played. They got a lot of young guys out there still that are still learning. So they're going to be fine. Like I said, even if they get – Jacksonville's going to be a tough place to go play on Sunday. Now, there's going to be a lot of Chiefs fans in the stands. I know that. But still, you're not at home. Now, here's the thing. Andy Reid's had extra days to prepare. And we all know when Andy Reid gets more than a week to prepare for a team, he's damn near unbeatable. So that's also in the Chiefs' favor. So it's going to be an interesting game Sunday. I mean, you got Trevor Lawrence, who looks pretty damn good. He was my MVP pick for the season this year. Jacksonville will be fired up. It's their little revenge game for them going out against us last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's a bit of in a way, it's kind of like, Indianapolis did pretty well, about as good as you can expect when you have a rookie quarterback and you're down Jonathan Taylor and most of your healthy wideouts and everything, but Jacksonville, Calvin Ridley, for being gone a whole year. I mean, dude looked like he hasn't lost a single step.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about how Christian Kirk was going to shine this year. It was the Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones show all day in Jacksonville.
They got weapons.
In Indy, but for Jacksonville. And, this is, it's a preview basically, or a rematch of the AFC divisional round last year.
Yeah.
And Trevor Lawrence, people don't realize, huge. Everybody talks about Justin Herbert choking away the playoff game last year. Justin Herbert did great. It was the fact that Trevor Lawrence went on an absolute second half tear, and that's what spearheaded the comeback against the Chargers in the wild card.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence looked really rough coming out of college, as almost per tradition for the most part with rookie quarterbacks, but he's really coming to his own. They got rid of Urban Meyer, who was the absolute most toxic environment toxic coach you could have. Um, and you get in a guy like Doug Peterson, who knows what the hell he's talking about and what he's doing.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a very good matchup for the Chiefs. It's clutch that Chris Jones is coming back. Um, but I will say, I expect a really great battle between these two.
And I don't know how much Jones is going to play. I know they say he's going to play, but he's missed all of training camp, all the preseason. And I know the starters don't play a whole lot in the preseason, but he I'm sure he's in phenomenal shape, but he's not in football shape. And the last thing you want him to do is go out there and blow an ACL, an Achilles, something like that. So I don't know if you see him more than 15 plays, honestly, Sunday. I would be very careful if I'm the Chiefs. You don't want him getting hurt in Jacksonville. So you got to be careful with him. Now, he may play the whole game. Who knows? I highly doubt it. Stamina and just safety reasons, I would let him play at the most half the snaps, and that would be it.
Hang on, still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, just made little spotty on my end. Just wanted to make sure. No, I definitely I could see Chris Jones being on a snap count absolutely because he is the leader still of your defense, and it's something that he's going to have to be eased into, get back into the groove of things, because some players that when they hold out, they do their own training regimens and everything. They make sure to take care of themselves still. Um, at the end of the day, besides the fact I didn't feel he should get the big Aaron Donald historic contract, I also did not feel that. I mean, as great as I do think Chris Jones is definitely, one of the best at his position. But I also highly disagreed with the fact that he was sitting in the stands or in a suite watching, his team and eventually lose when pointing at him. They knew he was there. They figured, okay, and the team didn't have an issue with it apparently. So I mean,
No.
who's gonna stop him?
Right.
Like, I'm sure if the team told him no, he would have respected it. But if they give him the go ahead, it's not gonna matter as much.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. So with that, folks, once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media. I am here. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Karp, live with the good doctor, JM from Review STL, as well as Interstate 70 Sports Media. Be sure to find us on Facebook, X, YouTube. I'm never going to get used to that, am I? Or Interstate 70 Sports .media. So with that, I want one more piece of news to talk about before we get into your power rankings.
Sure.
And it's arguably the biggest news story of football over the past week. And that is that newly acquired Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers is done for the season. He completely tore his left Achilles 4 snaps in against the Buffalo Bills on Monday night. 39-year-old, was newly acquired over the offseason. People thought he was going to retire, ended up getting traded from the Packers to the Jets. And people, and before we talk about the injury, I want to make it clear, this whole thing of him tearing his Achilles and everything, yeah, it shakes up his career because he says he's coming back. He says this isn't the last we've seen of him. But people don't realize this shakes up the draft too. Because if Aaron Rodgers played 65% of the snaps, the conditional pick the Packers got would be a first rounder. It's not going to be a first rounder anymore. So, And I know at the grand scheme of things, that's not what matters. But from the business side of the NFL, that is something that, of course, all ownership takes a look into.
Right. It's a tough position for the Jets, honestly. I feel for them because the Jets are a hell of a team. I love their coach. I
Yeah.
like the offense they have. You got McCall Hardman on there. The one I forget the wide receiver that's the stud on the team. I forget his name. Second year player
Garrett Wilson.
Wilson. Kid's
Garrett
unbelievable.
Wilson's
That touchdown
really,
catch he had was
right.
unbelievable. No, not Wilson. Wilson's the quarterback. Who's the wide receiver? They got the second year. I forget his name. He caught the touchdown. The one that he caught basically one handed. They're a great team, but without a good quarterback or a serviceable quarterback, they are not going anywhere, which is a shame because, I mean, so much hype was built around Rodgers. I can't remember a player in any league that had this much hype coming into a season. And then for it all just to blow up in their face. And I like Zach Wilson. I think he's a great guy. But I don't think he has what it takes to be a great professional quarterback. I think he could be a serviceable backup. What do they do now? I mean, because listen, if you bring in somebody else, which I don't know who the hell you'd bring in at this point, I don't know anybody out there that you could bring in. If you bring someone else in and put them over Wilson, he's done in New York. You've destroyed any confidence that kid has coming off a win over the top team in their division. So the Jets are in a tough place. I don't know what they do at this point. Like I said, I've read rumors that they were trying to go after a backup on, I forget who it was, a rookie backup on Tennessee or somebody like that. I can't remember who it was. I'd never even heard of the kid, but he was just drafted this year. They were inquiring
Oh,
about
Will
him.
Levis?
No, I'd never heard of the kid, but he was drafted. I forget what team he's on. Would it be the Bears? Maybe I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. But I don't know what they do.
Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Wait a minute. I know who you're talking about. Well, they were talking. There were rumors going about them wanting Dorian Thompson Robinson from
That's it.
Cleveland.
That's it. Cleveland's
He was a
back.
fifth
That's what.
rounder. And thing of it is, dude's a stud. There's no way in hell the Jets would be able to get him because Cleveland has so much confidence and faith in him. I've heard names like Colt McCoy, Chase Daniels, Cam Newton, a lot of veteran guys that they've thought of. I mean, they intend on sticking with Zach Wilson. But the thing of it is, you do still need to get a quarterback because there is no one else. You just had Rodgers and Wilson, and we forgot they even had Wilson because all we heard about was Aaron Rodgers. So you still need to bring in somebody else. Yeah. And it's going to have to be a veteran. Although, if you want my personal take, I think this is a great chance for some guys who don't really get chances to break out because you have a great offense in New York. So I say get an Easton Stick, get Jacob Eason, get Sam Ellinger, get some of these, maybe take a look at one of these younger guys that has learned behind really good quarterbacks, and give it a shot. The season's not lost. Like you said, they beat arguably the best team of the division, so for all intents and purposes, throw it out there. You got this season to see what you have to work with until next year when Rodgers comes back.
Yeah.
The season's not over. It's just become a lot more depressing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's become a lot more depressing. Oh, and I forget who, I think it was Keith Olbermann. A lot of people are giving him backlash because somebody, I think it was the Jets Twitter or X account. Screw it. I'm calling it Twitter. I don't give a damn. The Jets Twitter account tweeted out that not what any of us wanted to see, or not how anybody wanted the season to end, whatnot. Basically, it was talking about how depressing losing Rodgers is, and then Oberman tweets out and replies, "Define any," basically saying he didn't like Aaron Rodgers, and everybody started basically crapping on him and giving him well-deserved criticism
I don't
because
know. I mean,
nobody look.
Rodgers is a hard guy to
I mean,
like.
if oh, he's definitely a hard guy to like, but this is the thing. I never liked Tom Brady. I eventually started respecting the fact that he played this long and he was still such a great quarterback for so long, but I never wished an injury upon him.
No,
I didn't purposely say, and that's what the root of the issue is. I don't think anybody's forcing Keith Olbermann to like Aaron Rodgers. If they do, they're delusional at that.
right.
But to say, that you're wishing a player, getting hurt, wishing that harm, that's the problem. That's the root issue in all this.
Mhm.
Um, and and at the end of the day, look, all year was Aaron Rodgers because this game took place on the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, and you have Aaron Rodgers running into MetLife Stadium with the American flag and the crowd of well over 70,000 people, or however much that stadium can hold, going just wild.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just a great sight. It's depressing. I'm fine with the Jets winning the game. I think it's great for them and for the fans. But hell, for how that all ended, that's just killer.
Yeah, it is. I agree
Um,
with you. It is. It was hard. I felt bad for them watching
and
it.
Well, and this is the thing. We've heard all off season, and I know you're about to get into this because we're about to segue into your power rankings. The AFC North was labeled all off season as the toughest division in the AFC, perhaps the toughest division in the NFL. Well, honestly, if you want my personal opinion, I might have to go with the AFC East. I mean, you got arguably the most explosive offense in the league with the Miami Dolphins, with Tua, with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. You had the Patriots who were just literally like a few toes away from staying alive and potentially beating the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending NFC champions.
Mhm.
You have the Jets, who even though they lost Aaron Rodgers, look at all the young, great talent they have on offense and on defense. Sauce Gardner is
Right.
one of the best defensive backs in the league already. And I mean, look, as as much as Buffalo just cannot get the job done at the end of the day when it comes to the playoffs, they're still a force to be reckoned with. Um, Granted, Josh Allen is a complete turnover machine, but that's beside the point.
Right.
So I mean, and so I definitely want to get that thought. What do you feel is the toughest division in the AFC?
I would have to go. Judging on the first week of the season, it's going to be the East. Um, you got the Dolphins, you got the Jets, you got the Bills. I don't worry about the Patriots. They're not going to figure into it. Mac Jones is not the real deal out there. His team doesn't trust him. Bill Belichick doesn't trust him. Um, the Patriots will win 7 games if they're lucky. So they're not going to figure into it now. The Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills, they're going to be beating up each other most likely for the season. Now, if I had to pick a team that's going to come out on top, I still think Buffalo has the best opportunity to come out on top. Now, having that first division loss is going to set them back a little bit, but you know, I I'm not saying I fully buy into Miami yet. I do have them in my top 10 in my power rankings, but I'm not sold on. Well, I'm not totally sold on Tua, that he can stay healthy. And I question their coaching staff as well. I don't think Miami is a contender. Now they could make the playoffs, but I think it'll be as a wild card. Buffalo, in my mind, still runs that division, despite Josh Allen not being an elite quarterback in my eyes. They still have the best team overall in that division.
Okay. Well, and with that, folks, we are going to segue now into, and we look to get this into a weekly segment throughout the course of the NFL season. But it is the first on Roundabout Sports here. We have the Good Doctors Week 2 NFL Power Rankings. So the floor is yours, my friend.
All right. So I'm going to start with number 10. My number 10 team right now is the Green Bay Packers. I know a lot of us were sleeping on the Cheeseheads in the offseason, thinking that Detroit's going to run away with that division. That's not going to happen, folks. Jordan Love is legit. He tore up the Bears' defense on Sunday, and I think he's ready to fill the shoes of Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay is going to be a tough team. I'm not saying they're going to win that division, but I do think they'll make the playoffs. So they're my number 10. My number 9 team is the Jaguars. I think they're going to go higher than number 9, but I think they could be a top 3 team before the end of the season. But Calvin Ridley, his return of almost a 2-year absence, that turned the table on things. So he had 8 catches for 101 yards and a score. Trevor Lawrence, my preseason MVP pick, he's living up to that pick. Watch out for him. He's going to be a stud this year. So if you have him in your fantasy league, you're going to be very happy because I think he probably throws 30 to 35 touchdowns this year. Number 8, Carp, you'll be happy to hear this. The Browns, Cleveland Browns. Hey, listen, the Brownies went into Cincy, and they beat the hell out of the Bungles, which I love to see because I can't stand the Bengals fans. All they do is chirp on social media. And, old Burrow, the highest paid guy in the league, didn't even throw for 100 yards. Cleveland's defense is legit, and they're a good defense now. I can't stand Deshaun Watson as a person, but he played well enough to get the win. So I'm not buying into the Browns yet, but I'm gonna keep an eye on them. I think that they could do some damage in that division this year. They could be a wild card team if things go well. So we'll see what happens. Number 7 is we're going to stay in that division. We're going to go with the Baltimore Ravens at 7. Listen, Zay Flowers is just what Lamar Jackson needs. All right. That's his new target. 9 catches for 78 yards. And, the only thing that's going to hurt Baltimore is J.K. Dobbins going down with a season-ending injury already. I'm not a Lamar Jackson fan. I think he's way overrated. I don't think he's a great quarterback. He's a hell of an athlete, but he's not a good quarterback. But Baltimore has a great head coach in John Harbaugh, and they have just hard-nosed defensive players. So they're at my number 7 right now. Number 6, I got the Detroit Lions. They continued on the success that they had last year when they knocked Green Bay out of the playoffs to end the season. Probably next to the Jets, the Lions are the most hyped team going into the season. So, going into Arrowhead, beating the defending champs on the night they, roll out the new championship banner, that was a big deal. Detroit and Green Bay are going to be fighting in that division for the top dog in that. So we'll see how Detroit continues, but man, they have a great head coach. They're a good team. So don't sleep on the Lions. Number 5 is the Miami Dolphins. Listen, this week it was the Tua and Tyreek show, and I think we're going to see that a lot more this year. Tua put himself right now in the early MVP consideration. I know it's only 1 game in, but man, he looked good. I don't buy him. I think that he won't be able to stay healthy, but we'll see. The Dolphins' defense was also stout when it needed to be. So watch out in the AFC East. The Dolphins could be a major player in that. Number 4, I got the Chiefs. They lost at home. It's okay. The Chiefs ran into a really good Lions team that was fired up and ready to go. Listen, no Chris Jones, no Travis Taylor Swift Kelsey, but they're going to be fine. Kadarius Toney dropped a bunch of passes, cost them the game, but they only lost by a point at the very end of it. So, all things considered, the Chiefs are going to be just fine. I'm not worried about them at all. Number 3 is the Dallas Cowboys. What a defense. Wow. Their offseason pickup of Stephon Gilmore, probably the top signing right now in the league. I mean, he just made a world of difference. You got Parsons on that defense yet. I will say that is the best defense I've seen played in a game in the NFL in probably the last 3 to 5 years. It took me back to the Baltimore Ravens defense with Ray Lewis. Dallas was just all over the field. Now, granted, it was the Giants. The Giants aren't going to be very good this year. Let's just be honest. But to go into New York and just beat the living crap out of them like they did, that defense is going to be the strength of the team. If they can stop from turning the ball over with Dak, the Cowboys are going to be a legit force in the NFC. They are my Super Bowl pick for the NFC. I got them and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. That's my prediction. So I think very highly of Dallas. So they're at number 3. At number 2, Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Carter, the rookie, dominant on defense. Showed exactly why they took him in the draft. The rookie was all over Mac Jones all day. Listen, Philly is going to pick up right where they left off last year. They have a great offense, great defense, great head coach. They're almost a complete team, almost. We'll see how the season goes, but I think them and Dallas are going to be beating up each other when they play. So Philly's my number 2. And number 1, 49ers. Easy pick. The offense was stellar. The defense was dominating. The Niners have lived up to the early season hype. A lot of people have them in the Super Bowl. I still think, while I think they're a complete team, I think when you get into the playoffs, you're going to see Brock Purdy struggle. But we'll get to that road when it's time. I mean, but for right now, man, the Niners look like the toast of the league. And I don't know who's going to beat them. It's going to take a monumental effort from any team to beat San Francisco this year. It's almost going to have to be a situation where San Francisco kind of beats themselves a little bit, I think, for a team to take them down. So that's my top 10 for right now. We'll see after this week where these teams kind of line up, and we'll see if any new teams can jump in. I think, I didn't put Buffalo on, but, I think with a dominating performance this week, they'd be right up there in the top 10. And, there are some teams that are kind of teetering on that border. The Packers could fall off. The Browns could fall off. We'll see what happens. But that's my top 10 for this week.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, good doctor. I wanted to say, so listening to your rankings, a lot of love for the 49ers. Pittsburgh absolutely fell so flat. And on top of that, Cam Hayward got injured, missed multiple weeks. Deontay Johnson got injured, is going to miss multiple weeks. And, the 49ers have a matchup this week against a very sneaky Rams team. So I think most people predicted that the Seahawks were going to beat the Rams. Mm-hmm. And Los Angeles really just came into Seattle and surprised them, because all this offseason we've heard nothing but bad things from LA when it came to the Rams organization. That Stafford couldn't, communicate well with his players. Cooper Kupp's injury, which has kept him now. He's going to be out to at least week 5 now. And perhaps longer. The hamstring's just not healing properly. And their running game is usually not this good. Kyron Williams outplayed Cam Akers. overall, the Rams surprised a lot in people in week 1, but this is
I
their
was
huge
happy to
test
see
against the
Kyron Williams.
49ers.
Kyron Williams is, of course, a St. Louis kid, went to Vianney High School, and he's from my
Mhm.
Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So I have a special place in my heart for him. I hate to see him out there in Los Angeles with the Rams, but
Right?
I don't buy the Rams for 1 minute. I think the smartest thing they could do is tank and start trading some of these high-priced veterans away and build for the future because Sean McVay has committed to staying around. I don't know why. He could go into TV and make probably more money than he does coaching. But he wants to stick around. But the team they got right now, I don't think Stafford's going to last the season. Cam Akers certainly isn't going to last the season. I don't think he's ever lasted a season in his career. But if they can ride Kyron Williams, they could get some wins. But, fluke things happen in the first week. I've seen, 5-win teams beat 13-win teams in the first week. It happens. So am I sold on the Rams? Not whatsoever. Do I think Seattle's going to have a bad year? No, I don't. You got Pete Carroll there. Again, one of the better coaches in the league. I think he's been there 13 years, and Seattle's made the playoffs 10 of those 13. So he'll get the ship righted. There's no reason to think that Seattle's going to be struggling this year. I look at them as a wild card contender. I look at the Rams as maybe a 5 to 6 win team max. I just don't think they have enough firepower on either side of the ball anymore. It's time for them to unload some of these higher priced guys and build for the future.
So you look at what Dew commented. He says here it's Stetson season. So do you think Stetson Bennett makes his debut replacing a benched Matt Stafford before the end of this season?
He won't make a difference. I don't look at him as a viable starting quarterback in the NFL. Backup maybe, but if your team's relying on Stetson Bennett for the future is not bright. That's all I can say. They need what
But
they
you know
need to do
what?
is
You know what's
tank.
interesting?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, what I would do is tank, and you got 5 really good quarterbacks coming out in the draft this year. Tank, get a top 5, top 6 pick, grab one of them quarterbacks, build for the future. Stetson Bennett, he's not your future. He's not. I'm sorry. I don't see it. I've never bought into him as a great, tool for a pro team. Like I said, backup. He'll be like Chase Daniel 2.0. That's how I view him. And there's nothing wrong with that. Good for him.
Ooh. Right. So I was gonna say, tanking can be, or there's tanking, there's going all in, whichever way you want to look at it. The Rams went all in a few years ago. They made all the acquisitions they needed. They did all the contracts extensions they needed. They did everything they could to win the Super Bowl that year. After that, it was kind of just, what happens. And the Rams are paying dearly for a Super Bowl win. Or let's put it this way. They won their Super Bowl that they wanted. First one since, 99 here in St. Louis. And the Rams are paying badly for it. Whereas the Rams, after they won the Super Bowl in St. Louis, they went on to have if I remember correctly, a 24-8 record over the next 2 seasons. So go figure on that one. And, once again, went within an Adam Vinatieri kick away from winning another Super Bowl.
Right. Here something that just crossed my mind. If the Rams start struggling, why not look at trading Stafford to the Jets? Because the Jets have a team where Stafford could come in and perform well.
Shoot.
Now, I don't know the cap logistics.
I didn't think of that one.
But if Zach Wilson really comes out and stinks it up next week, and I'd give Wilson 2 weeks. Okay, you give Zach Wilson 2 weeks. If they would drop both those games and be 1-2 after 3 weeks, I think you'd take a serious phone call to the Rams about Stafford. Or, and I know people are going to think I'm crazy, you call Arizona and you look at Kyler Murray. Because I think Kyler Murray is a hell of an athlete, but his head is all messed up. Arizona is a mess. Their coaching staff is a joke. So a guy like him is just going down there and floundering, and they're going to be done with him after this year. I mean, they've pretty much made that clear. Arizona's tanking to get the top pick, and it's going to be a quarterback. So Kyler Murray's going to be out of a job probably next year. So why not, if you're the Jets and Zach Wilson is struggling, why not take a look at Stafford or Murray for a possible trade? I mean, I would. I think
so. I look at the cap room. I mean, the Jets have almost 10 million in cap. Rams barely have close to 4. So that's the only problem I would see in it, you know.
But what would you give for Stafford? That's the thing. I mean, 3rd or 4th round, maybe a 3rd round pick, 4th round pick. Stafford's not a real valuable piece. He's not going to bring you a big haul. You know, that's
you
the thing.
Can't get much for Stafford these days because as good as Stafford is, he's not. It's because he's also getting older and he's lingering injuries. And, you know, when you mentioned the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, you know, do mention it right there. Kyler Murray's currently hurt. That's one of the reasons they're a giant mess. They're paying all this money to a guy who hasn't, you know, done anything as far as like playoffs or like actual winning success in the league.
Right.
Meanwhile, Josh Dobbs is having to start, and he did well. He did well in his, you know, not
but
his
they
debut,
lost.
but in his first start of the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, Arizona's an absolute like mess when it comes to the team right now. They're probably going to finish with the worst record in the league. I barely have them getting 2 wins on the season. Yeah. And I look at, like I said, you know, you talk about compensation. The Rams don't have much to give, but they could gladly accept a lot because that's the only thing.
They got a lot to give. The Rams got some players that
going on for them.
If you're a good team that needs to fill some holes and needs some veteran presence for a playoff run, the Rams got them. Rams got some, and there's talk the Rams may unload Donald. So don't be surprised if Aaron Donald is traded this season, guys. I'm telling you, Aaron Donald is a hot commodity for a playoff team. What team? I don't know. But there's been talk that the Rams they're not ruling out moving Aaron Donald. You know, so don't be shocked if I'm telling you, the Rams are not going to be a good team this year. That's why I hated to see them beat Seattle, because it's fooling people. You know, people who, and I don't know who in St. Louis would actually root for the Rams anymore, but I actually have a friend who does. But they're not.
I have a dear friend who does as well. He's like a brother to me. He still roots for the Rams, but I believe once like the last remaining STL Ram player he leaves, I think that's when they're going to be dead to him. So,
I mean, who's left there from?
If I remember correctly,
I don't even know who's left from St. Louis. I'm not even sure.
Oh, what's up?
Who's left from St. Louis on the Rams team? I don't even think anyone is.
Well, Aaron Donald for one.
Okay. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I mean, for a while, Zerline and Hecker, but they're both gone.
They're gone.
Rob Havenstein is no, Havenstein's still with the Rams. So I think right now, I think we're at 2. I feel like I'm missing a couple. It depends.
Was Donald a rookie when they left?
Let's see. Nope. Troy Hill's gone.
So I mean, Was Donald?
Let
I don't
me.
know if I'd really even consider Donald
I'm
a.
pretty sure he was. Aaron Donald was because the Rams left. He was a couple years in when the Rams left St. Louis.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, Donald, but he is 32 years old. So I get what you're saying about
32.
about potential trade commodity, fill a need quickly. But no, there's not many Rams players left that were from St. Louis that are still on the team. Um, and I didn't think about even Stafford potentially being a name that the Jets would consider but that's another strong veteran one. I know, of course, every time there is a quarterback, either controversy or situation, Kaepernick's name gets thrown into the mix. Apparently, his agency reached out. I know, and I know that's not going to happen. I know Cam Newton's not going to go. I don't think Colt McCoy or Chase Daniels is going to be a starter there, as much as I
No.
love Colton Chase. Because a lot of it also goes into the system that Robert Saleh runs in New York, like the offensive scheme. Like it fit somebody like Aaron Rodgers, who all throughout the offseason and training camp and everything. But I think Zach Wilson, this is his make or break. I also threw out a name to my friend. I also threw out a name. I got one more for you. Carson Wentz.
Oof.
I mean, hell, have a team with two.
I've heard Carson Wentz as well.
Who have been beyond mid in their careers.
What about Matt Ryan?
So, he's not officially retired. So, the possibility's there.
I think you ride with Wilson. Because listen, you're going to have Rodgers in Wilson's ear the entire game. And I don't.
What about Ben DiNucci? Here's a pick for you.
Are they
Ben
joking?
DiNucci
Or are they being
leading
serious?
the Jets to the promised land?
DiNucci,
I actually see him being serious. I could see him being serious on that one, but I could also see him being jokingly full of crap on it.
Listen, there's not an XFL quarterback who is even second string caliber to the NFL.
No, wait. AJ McCarron is more than capable of being at least a backup in the NFL.
No, not anymore.
What about PJ Walker? How are you telling me that PJ Walker is not capable of this?
Did he keep his job?
No, but at the same time, the league didn't stay.
The PJ Walker got cut from the Bears, right?
PJ Walker cut from the Bears, and then I believe he's back. He's on the Browns.
He's on what is he, third string? Was he carrying a mop?
Yeah, he's third string behind Watson, obviously, and then DTR. So
third string. That's what I'm saying. There's not an XFL quarterback who would be beyond a third string or practice squad in the NFL. Come on, guys. This is what irritates me about XFL fans.
And he says he's talking crazy. So
yeah, XFL fans are. But you know what? And no offense to Drew, there are XFL fans who literally think AJ McCarron should start in the NFL. AJ McCarron wasn't even the best quarterback in the XFL.
What? Okay?
No.
Who was the best last year?
Ben DiNucci was better than him.
Ooh,
and I didn't think much. And no offense to AJ McCarron, I love the guy. The thing is, AJ McCarron's one of them guys. He's got that Kurt Warner personality. He's a family man. He's a God-fearing man. He's very nice. He's down to earth. But time has passed AJ McCarron by. Listen, he had his opportunity, and they're going to ride with Zach Wilson. But I say, that Jets team has too much invested into this season to let Zach Wilson flush it down the toilet. If he loses the next two games, I think you got to look elsewhere. You give him 2 games, and that's it.
Okay, now in those 2 games, here's another thing with that. You give Zach Wilson 2 games. All right. What in those two games do you expect? If they just win, or if he goes out like all out balls out and throws for like 300
Doesn't have
yards?
to
I
do that.
mean,
He
like
needs to manage the game and not lose you the game. Okay.
that's fair enough. That is
You can't,
definitely fair
and
enough.
if they win despite him, he's got to go. Okay. You need a guy who you can have 15 of 26 for
Ooh.
145,
Oh
150
no.
yards with a touchdown.
Well,
Maybe
I'm
not
looking at
even a
their
touchdown.
schedule. Well, I'm looking at their schedule the next 2 weeks. We first off, you know who his first test is against?
Who they got the next 2 weeks?
The next 2 weeks is your NFC Super Bowl pick, the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll see how he does against that defense. We'll talk about how their schedule is.
He may, hey, with that Jets O line, Zach Wilson may be on the IR after this week. I'm
That's
telling
what
you.
I'm saying. So let's look. So we got that. Then after that, they got the Patriots.
Okay,
Then the week after that, they got the Chiefs. I mean, I get it. You know, it's going to be a rough start, but
they could wind up 1-3.
yeah,
Now
I'm not going to lie. They could very well. I think Robert Saleh would be happy with 2-2.
you got to
I
be
think he'd be happy with 2-2. I mean, let's see who else we got. We you know let's just run the next few down. You got the Broncos. Oh
winnable,
hell. Oh hell. Then you got the Eagles. Then you got the Giants, the Chargers, I mean,
winnable.
Jets have a honestly.
They
It's
got a tough
not
schedule.
until no, it's not till December that they have at least some decent opponents they can beat. They got the Falcons because in December you got the Falcons, the Texans in 2 weeks in a row. You got the Dolphins, the Commanders, you got the Browns, and then you finish against the Patriots.
You should
Jets got to
you should beat the Patriots both times. So there's, hypothetically, there's 2 wins right there against the Patriots. You beat the Patriots.
defense is
Especially
going to
if
be the key for the Jets this season. Defense, defense, defense. Because
and
this all
your offense cannot lose you the game. That's the thing. As long as he plays conservatively and doesn't lose them the game, listen, it's a great thing they got Dalvin Cook because they're going to need him. Their running backs are going to have to run the ball. Shoot, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets run the ball 40 times a game, honestly. They're going to have to.
But they can. At least they can afford to because
they can try.
I was going to say because it could be like Chubb and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt last few years. Like,
and you know what? If they can do that, guess what? That is the death sentence for Kansas City when a team can do that. That's their kryptonite. You put a team on the field that can run the ball consistently and hold the ball and keep Mahomes off the field, you beat the Chiefs. So, hey, if the Jets can do that, I would not. I mean, I don't think they're going to go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs, but I wouldn't be utterly shocked either to see it if they do that.
Anything other than a blowout at this point, you would take.
As long as he doesn't throw the ball away, as long as he doesn't turn it over 3 times a game. And I think, they're smart enough to know they're not going to put him in that situation. The Jets are going to have to play the type of football where they get ahead 3, 6, 9-0 and let that defense take over. Now, if they get behind by more than a touchdown, they're in trouble. That's just, they get down 10, 13 points. I don't give them much hope, especially against the Dallas, Kansas City, Philadelphia, whoever they play. But yeah, they could still squeak in the playoffs.
It's definitely make or break for Zach Wilson.
I mean, I'm rooting for the kid. Listen, he's got a hot mom. I'm rooting for him.
Here, I got Jesus. I got a quarterback that can take the Jets to the promised land. It just can't dawned on me. You ready?
Yeah. Jesus. I did hear a great story about Brady this week, though. As much as I'm not a Brady fan. I think he is the greatest
What'd you hear?
to ever play the game. But So when he was in Tampa, I forget who it was who came out with this. Oh, it was the former Notre Dame tight end who just retired. I forget his name, but he was on the Bucks last year at Brady, and he came out and said that Brady had an open locker next to his locker where players would.
Kyle Rudolph.
Kyle Rudolph. Rudolph said that Brady had an empty locker that they put next to his because players would just leave jerseys and photos and helmets for him to autograph for their kids and family. And they said Brady would stick around after the game and sign all of it and give it to them. And they said Brady treated everyone in the stadium, down to the custodians, ticket takers, with nothing but respect. So as much as we like to hate on Tom Brady, the dude is actually, I think, a pretty damn good guy. And I hate to say it because he beat my Chiefs so many times throughout the years, it drove me nuts. I was at the AFC title game that he ran it into the end zone to knock us out, kept Mahomes from going to his first Super Bowl. But
that was on D
Ford.
That game was on D Ford.
I mean, I was in the end zone when he ran it in. I was literally sixth row in that end zone, man. That was brutal. He broke my heart into pieces that year. But he's a good dude. I don't think we'll ever see him play again. Hopefully not. I'm done with him. He has all his rings. He don't need any more. But
no, he's got everything.
Here's another name that kind of popped into my mind. Two actually. What about, and these may seem far-fetched, Jimmy G at the Raiders? What if they get sick of him? Or, and this I think is more likely to happen, Russell Wilson.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say Russell Wilson. It just the thought of it. I mean, in a way, Sean Payton's already kind of sick of Russell Wilson, and the Broncos don't look a whole lot better than where they ended last year on offense.
Sean Payton has control of that team, and they're basically telling him he can do whatever he wants. So if Wilson, now I don't know if here's the thing, AFC to AFC team, I don't know how likely a trade would be. I could see the Raiders doing it because it's the Raiders and they just don't care. I don't know if Peyton would do that, but if you're truly done with Russell Wilson, he's going to be a distraction if you keep him around on the team if you bench him. You know that. As high profile as he is, you'll have him chirping on social media. You'll have Sierra chirping on social media. She's like Kurt Warner's wife reborn. And I like Brenda. Brenda's a great lady, but man, she was a pain in the ass here in St. Louis for a couple of years. But Russell Wilson could be a guy, a stopgap for a year. I don't know. At this point, I think you got to let the kid, Zach Wilson, have a shot. Now that you bring up their schedule, boy, I don't know. I don't know what the kid's gonna do.
I was about to say you're already talking about the next 3 games, and
Dallas scares me. I mean,
two of them are your Super Bowl prediction.
Dallas, that defense, man. I haven't seen defense. To be in the
Super Bowl this year.
I mean, that defense was unreal the other night. I was just sitting, and I'm not a Dallas fan at all. But I was just sitting back as a football fan, as a purist of the game, watching that defense. It was unlike anything I had ever, I don't want to say ever seen, but in a long time. It was a beautiful thing to watch, that defense in working on the field. So we'll see how he can handle that defense. I don't know, man. I don't know if he'll last a quarter. He may have the Aaron Rodgers effect and go down after 4 snaps too.
It was definitely something. Oh my gosh. Well, good doctor. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on this week. This has been so much fun. We are going to definitely wrap it up here, folks, on Roundabout Sports this evening. Before we close it up, as always, I want to mention that about the NAMI helpline, which you can call at 1-800-950-NAMI. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. That is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's a United States-based nonprofit organization originally founded by a grassroots group of people diagnosed with mental illnesses. And as of course, we always put the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline on at the bottom of your screen as well for those that are tuning in to the uh, the live video version of the show. But the number is 988. It is available 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. That number is 988. Understand that you are never alone in this world. There is people unfortunately lose their lives to suicide and to depression every day. Um, and so many of us are fighting in the world. Understand that the struggles that you're going through, you were just a phone call, text message, and email, anything away from your voice being heard. And for those out there, you could also be the listening ears for those someone out there crying for help. So let's all work together to really work on curing the struggles of mental illnesses. Once again, I want to thank the good doctor, JM, for always being on and being not only a dear team member, but a dear friend. We send our best wishes out to James Hollywood Knox, as always, as he recovers from so many things he is dealing with. He's fighting the good fight as well as Babs, who is going through a lot. We are always here for you. So thank you all so much for tuning in. He's the good Dr. JM. I'm the maestro Jeremy Karp. And remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night, everybody.